Welcome back from the break. This is Family Hour. Today we are looking at strategies for successful organizational transformation. And before the break, Dr. Ernest had actually talked about something that is really very, very important. He said, as you think about that transformation, engage the stakeholders. So it should be a shared value. But then, now this takes us to the next question. At what point, or are there indicators, or are there marks that someone causing the transformation should look at and weigh the transformation they are causing and its effectiveness?
I think in any good change that is happening or transformation, you should have key pointers or KPIs and markers when you realize what you're supposed to realize. In any of the approaches we have spoken about before, you always do change in small bits, chewable bits. You don't just throw a massive change on everybody. You can change the time that people come in, and it's your starting place. It's your starting place to try and transform organizational culture. You can change, we all have a shared meal together, but you can't get up in the morning and say, everyone should be at their desks by 8. We should have lunch together. We've never had lunch together. You are required to stay for a meeting after work every single day. You are going to have people rebel. Even the ones who look at change are going to rebel. And so because you do that in chewable bits, one of the things that you have to do is create markers. Now, this is why it's important to have somebody who is very familiar with transformation change, organizational change rather. And this person should be able to create for you markers on the kind of transformation that you want to see. So say, for example, you want to change something such as people's reporting and leaving time. And so the first thing you will start, if you never had, is have a fingerprint signing as people come in, as opposed to a book where everyone, I had a workplace where everyone would sign 7:59. Now, the problem was, if I came in time, I did not know the culture was never sign 8. Yeah, and so everyone would come, even the person who was just signed right before you write 7:50. Now you write 8. You have limited everyone that is coming after you. So what I did is I just stopped writing because I said I can't lie about the time I have coming. But also I'd come in earlier, sit in the car, have a bit of quiet time. But it was very detrimental for everyone who came in after me, and nobody can find space to fix it. And so things such as that, you measure it, you curb those normal human vices, and you start to clock people in. So how do you measure that people are starting to come in early? Is that one, you have had a conversation with people, you have let them know what has happened, the change that is coming, you are informing them why it is necessary. Each of us likes why. Well, at least cholerics do. We like the why in every situation. And unfortunately, I think children these days also like why. I see a lot of children ask their parents why. And so that nobody's going to do something unless they understand the reason behind it. And so when you are starting that kind of transformation, you've explained the why, you've explained the need, and you're explaining what we want to, where we want to go, and what we want to achieve. So what you do with a marker, with something like that, is check within time, check in 3 months, what has changed about the way people are reporting. And so you do that by printing the data, and then you have another conversation with the participants and the people that are involved. So putting markers is very key for people to realize that transformation is actually making a difference. Now, there are those feasible outputs that you can look at, but then there are things such as culture which are weave in and out. It's the fabric that weaves in and out that you can't quite touch. Now that one you can only check its markers when you look at perhaps the way people appreciate the workplace. So a toxic workplace, nobody wants to stay in late. Nobody wants to give extra time. In fact, you find most of us are either falling sick, work is not delivered on time. You find people are huddling in groups, having cliques and talking about the boss here and there. You know that is a toxic work environment. So what do you want to do as a leader to change it? And so having group activities, having an open door policy. So you're going to create those kind of things that are not necessarily measurable per se, but you're changing the way the culture is done. So you tell people, walk into my office. So you're not the kind of boss that walks in and greets people. Why don't you start trying to walk in and greet people? Find out something that matters to them. Is it their spouse? How is their spouse doing? Is it their child? Is their child in school? How is that person doing? You want to start to do the things that matter to people. Now, what you will realize over time is people's satisfaction will begin to change. You may not have a clear something written in the books that say this is how it should look like, but you will notice a difference in people's satisfaction. You will notice how many more people come to work happier. You will notice how many people come to you with their problems because they begin to trust you. You will notice how many people prefer the workspace. They stay longer. You ask somebody to do something and there's not a frown on their face. They are happy to do it for you. So those are things that you begin to look at, the moral fabric that you're changing with just shifting different aspects. So you look at those different aspects which can tell you and be a key marker. But my advice for every institution is always find someone that's an expert in organizational transformation, because when they will culture for you, or they will craft something that shows what are the hard things that you can find markers on, but what are the soft things that you can change that will eventually affect the transformation.
Thank you, Doctor. You talked about a very interesting story of the women, and out of that story, we'll look at a situation where there is need for transformation, but how can institutions, organizations build a workforce that is resilient and adaptable to in the face of the transformation that we want to cause in the institution?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yes, so how can an organization build a resilient, a positive, a moving workforce? It is through leadership that we call transformational leadership, and I'll talk of transformational leadership versus transactional leadership. Much of the leadership that we have today is transactional. What do we mean by transactional? I recruit you as a what? As a sales manager. We sign a contract, make sales worth 100 million. You'll get your 5% cut and maybe a salary of 5 million, And so the relationship between the employer and the employee is the figures. There's no human face to it. That is transactional leadership. You give me, I give you. You do me, I do you. You're coming late, warning letter, sacked. There's one thing that talked about, what about this person's child? Have you, okay, yes, I'm coming late. Why? Why the lateness? Someone said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. As a leader in whichever space I am in, I must look at the team that I lead beyond just the work, to what are the goals of this entity? What are the goals of this particular employee? What are their personal aspirations? How do the two meet? Where do they meet? The organizational aspirations and the individual aspirations. So can I challenge you to go beyond just the organizational aspirations to your aspirations? When your team understands that you care beyond just their work, then they'll begin falling in line. It just works like magic. Transformation leadership is not just about coming and saying, hey, this month we are going everywhere. No. Get down. These are people who have lives behind them. Get into their lives, get them to appreciate that they can actually become better. Me as a follower, the moment I know that my leader cares about my business, then I will care about their business as well, you know, and together we shall move towards that that place that everyone wants to be. Because no, I don't think anyone wants a failing organization. Even the lazy employees do not want a failing organization. And by the way, it has been said that people do not quit organizations. People do not quit jobs. They quit leaders. Yeah, people quit leaders. That's why you'll find someone who has, for example, worked in a place for so long, suddenly saying, I'm tired, I am tired. Why is it that they are tired now? Why have they not been tired before? And in other places, you find someone who, there is a particular example, again, I won't mention the organization, but it had this one person who everyone felt was the worst worker, you know. He never came on time, never met deadlines. And then they just changed him to another department. You will not believe it, that year he was the performer of the year. You know? Just a change of leaders, just to a leader who seemed to care. Hey, okay, how are you today? Well, you know, it even had nothing to do with talking to them about work itself. Okay, yeah. So getting into their lives and making them feel like they are people who have aspirations, who are not robots, will help build them into that resilient team that will drive transformation.
Okay, thank you so much, Victor. Then, now that we know that people quit leaders and they not jobs, what are some of the components of a successful transformational reform?
Interesting. I saw a bigger thing to what he said about quitting leaders. I saw someone was writing on LinkedIn. They said they quit a lack of promotions, they quit toxic culture, they quit. It's such a long thing, and I was just looking at it, and I just said, okay, it's interesting what people quit. But again, it turns on leadership. So it's just an expounding on what they did. And so, remind me, what did you say? What's that, Samuel?
Successful transformational plan.
What is it?
I mean, what are the components of a successful transformation?
A successful transformation. I think one of the things you'll see is culture. Culture changes. The culture will go from toxic to really good. You find that people enjoy work rather than hate work. You find that people are looking forward to coming to work rather than them resenting work. You find that people are actually satisfied with the job that they do. They're giving more than they ordinarily were giving because something about their culture has changed. Because every time you go into transformation, the truth is you need to also change your culture. Whether it's good, if it's good, it can be better. If it's toxic, it can get good. And so one of the things that you have to look at is the culture within the environment has to change. And in every space, there's a reason to develop. There's something that you need to be good at. I did a test on emotionally healthy discipleship, and I was taking my team of mentors and eventually a team of people. And it was a mark of whether you are emotionally an infant or a child or an adolescent or an adult. And as people went through the test, they were very distressed by the results.
I don't want to take it.
Because they found that they're emotional infants in some places. And so after I'd taken it, in the beginning I'd marked myself so highly. And so I went back to look at my results after on. And I found, okay, so in some places I'm an adolescent, in some places I'm an adult. And the thing I love about tests like that is that when you acknowledge where you stand, then you're able to grow. There is always room for progress, there's always room for change. And I say that to say that there's no culture that is perfect. Culture is always evolving. And so allow with transformation, allow evolution of culture in your particular space. Because when you are intentional, and remember we've spoken about this before, you have to be intentional about culture. If you're not intentional about it, of course, while people slept, the enemy came and planted seeds. So there has to be an intentionality in how you are developing culture. The other thing that you'll see about successful transformation is whether you like it or not, people be moved to the correct positions. Now, I am sure the reason people thought of transformation is because there is a problem with some level of leadership, whether it's at the top, mid-management, or at the bottom. Now, there's an aspect of firing, but then there's an aspect of moving people to the correct positions. Many times we go into institutions and people promote because of seniority. They do not promote because the person is talented, is gifted, and is better qualified for that position. So if I entered into Ernest and I entered into a space, I found Ernest in that space, and he has worked there 3 years. But 3 years, he does not show perhaps the leadership development that is required of a departmental leader. And I come in, but I'm his junior, but I show those qualities. More likely than not, they'll promote Ernest when the space comes. But is it the right decision? Is it the right space? And so one of the things about transformation you have to look at is put people where they will excel. If it means you have to sometimes make the hard decision to let go of some people. I like the transformation where it comes to the participatory top-bottom approach, because there, one of the things that they tell you about it is that the CEO should be willing to be fired if they object to transformation. Now that is risky, but it is necessary, because if we understand that institutions are bigger than us, then they will excel, and we truly want them to excel without us. I have found in life that when a door closes, and it seems so shattering in that moment, somehow, if you walk with God and trust with God, you will land where you're supposed to be. And so one of the things that is important in key transformational process is realigning people, or realigning the vision objectives to suit the kind of people that you have. Now I prefer the mode of hiring where it looks, how can I better use your talents, as opposed to how do you match up to the talents I want you to have. Now, if I find someone that is gifted, many times we interview people who are gifted, but not gifted for the role that is being hired. But you look at this person, and if you have space somewhere, how can you nurture that talent to bring out the best in your organization? So one of the key things you have to look at is suiting people, vision, mission, values in a way that helps them to arrive at the space of transformation. And lastly, one of the things that you'll also see with transformation is increased productivity. Because the very reason you went into it is to increase the production. So whether you are selling services or selling goods or whatever you are selling, there should be a change. There should be an output that has broken the status quo. Because the whole idea of transformation is to challenge the status quo.
Dr. Ernest, we look at a situation where a leader has come in and they have this fresh vision for the institution. There are things they realize, there are cultures they want to do away with, but there are also old people in the system that are not willing to adjust to the new normal, even when you try to explain to them to understand the need for transformation. They are not willing. Instead, after the engagements, they'll build now teams. So in an institution, you see teams. There's team this one, probably one is fighting the other, verbally or by actions and all that. What do you do in such a situation as a leader? Do you let go of the other people who you found in the system, but they're trying to go against the transformation you're trying to cause?
Okay, IQ, that's an interesting one, yet it happens every other day. It happens. There will be those that are rooted in a place, those that the trouble causers in the place. The challenge many times when a new leader comes is many times the leader will come with this, I have come to fix you guys. Now, the moment you join an entity with that kind of approach, you're going to meet blockades. Because, okay, what do you expect the old crew to do? Your new leader have come fix you guys. So everyone gets it in his mind, they have come to fix me. So how do I become unfixable? You end up having the elephant and the bull fight. There's what we call incarnational leadership, and that is something I want to propose, especially for new leaders. What is incarnate? For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son to come. He did not sit there and say, "Hey, you sinners down there on earth." No, He came, spent 30 years. Imagine this is the Creator. He comes, he has the blueprint, but he spends 30 years without even saying meh, just living, just seeing, just doing, okay? And no wonder these people are shocked, like, what? Isn't that the carpenter's son? You mean all along he's this wise? For 30 years we haven't noticed that this guy is actually different, Get the bind, this is our friend, this is our birthday, this is our thing. And then there's something that I talked about, incremental change. And then slowly begin bringing about that change that you want. And the other thing, so get in, be accepted, do not rush to change day one, get accepted, and then slowly agree with them. We think this is okay. We think here we can go there. Here we think we cannot. But also the other thing, the other side, at times leaders become too complacent. How do they become too complacent? Person X, you've agreed on a rule, 8 a.m., X comes late, 8:30, nothing happens. You have said no one should do this. The boss's girlfriend is the one doing it. You're saying no one should take an office laptop at home, but everyone knows that of the 10 laptops that were bought, one is at the boss's home, the other is at the boss's girlfriend's home, So, enforcement of agreed on principles also helps many times sort that out. If you have said this is what we should do, let there be clear consequences for non-compliance. Otherwise, we shall watch. Hey, so he can get away with that. For me, what can I get away with? So everyone is looking for what can they get away with. But when everyone knows that in a culture, this means this, then they will all move together.
Wow. Thank you so much, Doctor. Now, I know we are getting short of time. Then, what would be your closing remarks?
Yeah. Well, transformation, like I've said, is something that happens over time. Change is inevitable, but transformation is the way you steward that change and be intentional about what you are doing to your organization. And each of us at some point in our lives will have seasons of life where we will go through that kind of transformation. We'll have seasons of life where things will just abruptly happen. And so what you need to do as a leader is employ experts in organizational transformation to constantly check where you are as an entity, to enable you understand what you can do better, how you can steward that change, and how you can enable people become their best selves in such a process.
Doctor, what are your closing remarks?
Thank you very much. I will end with this quotation. The usual quotation is, if it's broken, fix it. But I want to propose a radical new. If it ain't broken, fix it. If it ain't broken, fix it. Do not wait until things are going the wrong direction. Transformation should be a continual process. Keep checking, keep transforming. Thank you.
in a minute, you've not talked about this book, Rebuilding Walls, Lessons from Nehemiah. At least, a few lessons in a minute that someone can pick out to have a reason to look out for it.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't prepared for that. Yes,
But
this is
the title
as well.
was really interesting.
Yes, Rebuilding Walls, Lessons from Nehemiah is one of the books that I have written. Actually, one of the major books that I have written, and it looks at the story of Nehemiah and picks lessons for social workers, lessons for people who want to bring transformation in society. And if I'm to summarize its thesis, it's that transformation will be driven, number one, by the heart, okay? Genuine concern for what has gone wrong, the heart, and then after the heart is aligned, looking out for those people that you need to move together. Of course, starting with God, the powers that be. You know, if you don't have the support of the powers that be, you're going to fail inevitably. Getting buy-in from them, and then getting buy-in for each of the persons that is affected. Once you have that, you'll be able to transform effectively.
It's a worthy reading book, therefore you can look out for a copy and read it. Thank you so much for watching Family Hour Today's edition, and it's been really a pleasure having you from Monday up to today. Tomorrow is a Friday, we shall be parenting with Claire Wenje. Next on your TV is Solomon. We meet again on Monday.